to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock and it is time for a Talk Magic. And I am here with one of my favorite magicians in the whole world. He is so talented, so funny. It's annoying. He is the one and only Matthew Wright. Matt, how you doing, mate?
Mama just killed a man. I'm all right, mate. How are you? I had to do that because I bought a new microphone. So I'm just testing it out. How are you?
That's the best virtual background I've ever seen in my life.
It's all right, isn't it?
Killer. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's good to see you. I know you're busy. I know you are so busy, and we're going to be talking about this, but we're going to be talking about all the Fat Matt stuff that you're doing, which is literally taking over the internet. And I want to talk about all of that. So thank you for finding time for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it.
You're more than welcome, mate. I've been watching it and I'm enjoying it, and I'm honoured to be asked. So thanks.
I'm sorry it took me this long to get to you. I should have had you on right at the very beginning. You know, I've been a big fan of your work from day.
I wouldn't to come on at the beginning. I waited for the numbers to grow to make it worth my while.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Anyway, everywhere, you know, I'm going to say to you this before we start. I did a poll on the site, on the channel, and I said, who do you want to see interviewed? Overwhelmingly, more people said Matt Wright than anyone else, including people like Chris Ramsey and David Copperfield. All of those guys, you were right at the top of the list.
Well, David Copperfield was asking to see me.
No, more people want to see you than Copperfield.
Oh, that's nice. I've seen Copperfield, to be honest, and I'd rather watch me. So it's all right. No, it's really humbling, to be honest. It's because you just doing your own little thing, you're getting on with life, and some people seem to like it. So it's really nice that people show a bit of appreciation or a bit of understanding, or just let you know that they're enjoying what you do. It's nice. I appreciate it.
And you know what? You've made an impact on the magic community in so many different ways. I want to break that all down. But before I do, let's just assume that there's someone out there who doesn't know who Matt Wright is. I can't imagine how they wouldn't know the marvelous Matt Wright. But let's just assume there's someone out there who doesn't know who you are. Let's start at the very beginning. The very, very beginning. Marvelous Matt Wright. When did you get into magic? What's your origin story?
I think for us, it's this. For people our age, the story's the same, pretty much. It was Paul Daniels on a Saturday night, and the magic kit for Christmas, and just doing shows for the family at Christmas and stuff like that. Got the Mark Wilson complete course, devoured that, and just loved it. From probably about 5 or 6 years old is when I got my first trick at Christmas, I think. Carried on doing it till I was 12 or 13, something like that. And then fell out of it. Got into football and sports, and then girls and drinking. And then Blaine came on the scene and burst onto the scene, and he was doing tricks. And I was like, I can do all them. I already know all them tricks, because he wasn't doing anything groundbreaking magic wise. But the style and presentation and turning that camera and flipping it on the audience, magic was reborn.
Mm-hmm.
So I was about 18, 19 at the time, going out down the nightclubs. So I used to take a deck of cards, and then I'd take 2 decks of cards, and then I'd take 2 decks of cards, some thread, a magnet, some gimmicks. And I was just completely loaded with gimmicks. And that'd be my night out. It'd take me an hour to get ready to go out just to set up my magic stuff. And I became known around town as the magic guy. So everywhere you went, it was Matt the Magician.
So how did you go from that to becoming a professional magician? Like what did you do when you finished school? You were going out nightclubbing, but did you have a job? And
I was a photographer, professional photographer, working for the newspapers, doing that. I had a lot of rough lads who were friends, naughty lads. And there was, it's from a very working class town where I am. And there was one pub that was incredibly working class, full of gangsters and travelers and things like that. So when I went in there as a 16-year-old boy, these were all the people, the heroes, really, that you'd look up to. And they'd all be playing cards for a lot of money. And I'd go over and I'd deal 4 aces and pull some out my pockets and out my shoes, and they were going mad. So all these people that the town, or certainly my friends, hero worshipped, were now inviting me to go to their table through magic.
Wow.
So that was a big boost for me to go. I remember one guy, I won't say his name, but he asked me to go dealing in a gypsy camp. So we're playing a game of cards. So come and deal at a gypsy camp. I said, I don't think I'm made up for this. He says, oh, you're all right. Just bring a gun. Oh, okay. So, yeah, that was when I stopped performing for them people. That was the last time I did it.
Yeah, I can imagine, to be honest, mate. Good grief. So did you then, was it kind of then a natural progression to turn professional at that point, or?
No, again, I was running pubs at that point. Me and my dad went into the pub game. So I was running pubs and I was going down doing you know what it's like when you just go to the pub, everyone wants to see a new trick. So I'm in there constantly, and it was constantly people asking for new tricks. So I was like on a fast forward. I had to learn a new trick almost every day. So I was practicing and practicing and practicing, going down and doing it for people every single day. And then a lot of the people that were doing it for us said, you're wasted here. So I thought, right, well, we'll give it a go. And my mate was an 1830s rep. He worked for us behind the bar in the winter and then worked abroad in the summer doing all the holiday resorts and stuff. So I decided to take the summer off and go and work abroad at a place called the Privy de Magic, a magic nightclub in Lorette de Mar.
Oh, right. Okay.
It had nothing to do with magic. It was just called, it was called magic. So I said, I'll come and do magic for you. So I was just working for tips. So I did that for a summer, came back and then went to Magaluf and started working some bars and hotels, but mainly, I wouldn't say busking on the street because it wasn't a street performance. I built something that I called the Magic Shack. I bought a garden shed and did it all up with cards, stuck a load of cards to it, built a big semicircle poker table and had stools all around. So people who it was on a BCM Square, the biggest outdoor square in Spain. BCM is a big nightclub in Spain. So we had a lot of passing trade, and I'd do 15, 20-minute shows, and people would bring over and they'd sit down on the chairs and I'd do a show, and then I'd give the hat and everyone would put money in. So it wasn't busking as such. It was like a parlor show that you could pay what you wanted to watch. And that's where I learned the trade more than anything. I'd be doing 10, 15 shows a night. And if you were shit, you didn't get paid.
Well, you're going to get good very quickly, aren't you? Or you're going to
You have to, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that's where I got the love of performing for tourists for, really. Because it's very much, I did the corporate gigs, but I never enjoyed them. I never liked having to move out of the way for roast potatoes. You know, you're so far down the pecking order of that day as a magician that I just didn't think it was doing justice at all. One thing I did like doing at the corporates was the doing the roulette and the poker and stuff. I'd do the fun casino stuff, and in between dealing poker hands, I'd do a few tricks. Oh, so that was another learning ground of working the corporate side. But I never really enjoyed that. And doing it with tourists, it's very much like a wedding. Everyone's there to have a good time. You know, I love performing at weddings much, much more than I do a corporate party. And holidaymakers is that plus a little bit more.
And when they go on holiday, I'm guessing they've gone prepared to spend money. So if you're
they've got money burning a hole in their pocket. They've saved up all year. And in Magaluf, one good thing was the port. We got a lot of the Marines in, the US Marines and stuff like that. And they'd be on board for 3 months, and they get 1 weekend off. So they hadn't spent any money for 3 months, getting paid a ton of money. They come out and they just blow it all in a weekend. So you do a trick and they'd be throwing $50 tips at you. So that was great when the Marines came on.
And what did you do? So you're over in Spain. You're at the point in the career where you're over in Spain. Did you go back to Did you go back to the UK over the summer, over the winter?
Yeah,
And go back
so
with your dad, or?
I'd probably do from just before Easter until October time, Halloween time, around there, then come back to the UK and do the corporate thing at Christmas. I think
You've
there
done a
were
few
one or two
things.
guys. I've done a few for you.
Yeah.
And I did a few for Andy Gladwin. He'd pass me some. Rob James would pass me some. Alan Hudson. A lot of good guys who were busy over Christmas would pass me some work over Christmas. And I'd be really grateful for that. And then the rest of the time, I'd fill with doing fun casinos, working for Harry Robson or Martin Nuttall, people like that.
That's amazing. I mean, what a life. What a great life. Now, did you end up working? I think I've got this right. You ended up working with Rodney at the House of Illusion, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I did
How
6 years there.
How did that come about? How did you go from, because you've got your own pitch, you've made your tent, your shed. It sounds like there's money coming in left, right, and center. How did you go from there to working for somebody else?
Well, before I did that, actually, I missed a little stage, an important stage. Well, it's not an important stage. I was working for Mark Bennett at Pure Magic Bar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, such a learning experience for Mark Bennett when I was there. No, he learned so much from me about magic and business. You know, I don't think he gives me enough credit for his success. Really. So from I know you've got Mark coming on, so that'll be quite fun. We'll have to tell him about that.
I will, don't worry.
No, it was brilliant working for Mark at the Magic Bar. I was managing there, and then I went working abroad for a bit. Well, I moved down to London as well. That was part of my such a jumbled life. I was going everywhere. I was traveling. I moved to Chicago. I went studying with Eugene Berger. So yeah, it was.
Hang on, whoa! Let's not just.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking back and I'm trying to get it in chronological order, and I can't remember which I did first.
Studied with Eugene Berger in Chicago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to live in Chicago purely to take lessons in Eugene's flat. I say flat, apartment.
I mean, that's what you call taking it seriously. You know, I mean, if you want to be taken seriously as a magician and an entertainer, that's going the next level. I'm going to move my whole life to here just so I can have magic lessons with this guy.
Well, Eugene changed my life entirely. Eugene completely changed my life. I remember reading a couple of books of his, and I'm like, I'd never heard of him really. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know anything about him. I just read these books and had an instant connection with the guy. And I thought, I'm going to make it my life's work to track this guy down. I didn't know if he was alive. I didn't know anything about him. So I was telling my brother, and he said, why don't you try the internet? So I don't even know what that is. This was like the first time I went on the internet was to search for Eugene Berger.
Wow.
And it came up, and he had his own website. Eugene had a website, of course he did. And at the bottom, it said contact. So I pressed it, and the first email I ever sent in my life was to Eugene Berger.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was such a cool thing. And he replied within 24 hours saying, oh, I've got a magic school with Jeff McBride in Vegas. Why don't you come? So I sold my car, and 2 weeks later, I was in Vegas.
You just uprooted your life and you went over to Vegas to go to magic school.
Well, yeah, I went to magic school, to Jeff's magic school in Vegas. And then from there, they all said, oh, we're going. And well, I went to Vegas. I went to Hollywood. I went to the Magic Castle. I did a bit of a tour. And then they said, we're going to Amsterdam in 3 weeks. So I made sure I was back in Europe. And then I went to Amsterdam with Jeff and Eugene, which was mind-blowing. Jeff loves Amsterdam, but Eugene loves Amsterdam. It's like his favorite place in the world. I remember going to the Bulldog Cafe, and there was it's where they sell all the wacky backy, and Eugene's buying. So I said, let me buy it. Let me buy it. He said, no, it's fine. It's fine. I said, no, trust me. Let me buy it. It's like an ambition of mine. So I bought him some weed, and we went back to his hotel and we're smoking it, and my head just exploded. Kids, don't do it. So my head exploded and Eugene passes it me. I said, no, I've had enough. And he just leaned over and he squeezed my knee and he said, Matthew, you disappoint me. So I had to have some more and then I just blacked out. So that was my Eugene cannabis tale.
How long were you over in Chicago for?
I did 4 months in Chicago in winter. It was freezing cold. And I used to go for lessons every week with Eugene.
And what did you learn that made it worth literally moving your life over to Chicago to have lessons?
What did I learn from Eugene? Jeff and Eugene together were an incredible partnership because Jeff's knowledge of magic is second to none. And he just has everything there to hand. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, whether you're a complete novice or a FISM champion, he will have a nugget of information that within 10 minutes will improve your act, whatever level you're at. And he'll say, oh, you need this prop from 1947. And he kind of just reaches out and it's there. And it's like this rusty old vase and he gives it to you. It's like, here, use that. And then he'll run you through it and show you how to do it. And it's like, wow. And your act just improves as just like that. I mean, Jeff's another story. We can talk about Jeff again in a minute because Jeff's been my main mentor through all of my competition stuff. But anyway, that's Jeff's side of things. And then Eugene will just sit there and he'll just look at you and he'll say, why? And you're like, I don't know. I never thought that. Why? Why would you do that? So a lot of my magic development, even after I was away from Eugene, would be, what would Eugene say? What would he say? And there was always a reason behind it. There was always a story behind it. There was always some morals, some reason why you would be doing this thing at this point for this reason. You know, he always had something and he always questioned you, but he never gave you the answer. Eugene very rarely gave you the answer. He just asked the question and left you to figure it out for yourself.
Man, that's incredible.
What a guy. What a guy.
Incredible. That's incredible. So I've got so many questions. So you're bouncing around literally all over the globe.
Yeah.
When do you decide to go to the House of Illusion? I'm going to talk about.
Oh, that's where we were. Yeah.
Because obviously you've done Chicago, you've moved here, you've moved there, you moved to London, you've done this, you've done that. At some point, you decide to go and work for somebody else. All up until this point, you've been a free spirit. You've decided to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But then all of a sudden, you're working for somebody else. How did that come about?
When I was 18, for my art A level, I designed a magic bar. So I'd always intended to live in Spain. My mum had a villa in Spain. I'd always intended to move to Spain and have a magic bar. So my main thinking behind the House of Illusion was to go and learn how the business side of things worked.
Okay.
So that was, I only intended to go for one season. I only intended to go for 1 year and just learn how it was. And also I was doing FISM at the time. I just won the Magic Circle. I just won the Magic Circle. And I thought, I'm going to go for FISM. So what a great place to do your act 2 times a night in front of 150 people, 6 nights a week. Yeah. So it was just flight time. Jeff McBride calls it flight time, where you can't become a pilot unless you've done so many hours in the sky. And it's the same with magic. You're not a magician until you've done 1,000 hours of performing, or 5,000, or whatever it is. And the more you perform, the better you get, normally, hopefully.
Well, that's true. And I want to talk about all the competition stuff in a bit. So,
but you were right about the free spirit thing and then going to work for someone else, because it was a challenge for both me and for Rodney, I should imagine. Because I wasn't someone who who was easily told what to do, and I wouldn't easily take orders. And I think that I challenged Rodney's way of working with a lot of his members of his staff, that he had to make concessions for me that maybe he wouldn't have done for other people. And that was a really hard thing to balance with the other staff, because who's this guy coming in? I've got to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning and go and do a hotel welcome meeting, but he's not, because I just refused to do it. And I'm sure he must have thought about sacking me a few times.
But the bottom line is he kept you around for 6 years, and by all accounts, you were his right-hand guy through that entire time.
In this, after the second year, after the first year, when I started the second year, I went back as manager.
So he must have had a certain amount of respect for you, 100%.
Well, I think we had a mutual respect, and I think we had a good working relationship. I think we were contrasting ideas, but we could always come together. Like I was always someone who would practice and script and rehearse. And then one day Rodney would come in and say, "Well, we've got a Russian show." With what? Yeah, we're doing a Russian show tonight. It's we're doing it all to music. This is like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Doors open at 7. Shit. So now we've got to get a whole show together. Or there'd be so many times where the doors open at 7, and at 1 minute to 7, we're all in overalls, drilling and screwing and rewiring, and then boom, the doors open and the show's on. And I learned so much from that. The whole FISM act that I know we're going to talk about in a bit, but the whole FISM act came from Rodney dropping that Russian show on us. Because I needed to come up with a trick to music that night, and FISM was born from that conversation.
That's incredible. That's
everything. I haven't thought about it. Everything came from that conversation, because he that afternoon he'd played a piece of music from Lady Gaga, an acoustic version of Poker Face,
which you've made iconic now in your act.
Which is now a mainstay of my act. But not only that, there was a bit in there where she would sing, "I am marvelous." And I did, "I am marvelous, I'm marvelous." And then I started signing my shirts, because we do a lot of autographs and stuff. I'd started signing them, "Marvelous Matthew Wright." I'd say, "I am marvelous." And that's where the whole thing from. So this thing behind me, "Marvelous Matthew Wright," that's all because Rodney decided we were doing a Russian show at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, it's the old expression, isn't it? Necessity is the mother of invention,
And I work much more in Rodney's style now. It's very rare that I'll script something. I'll go out and we do it, and you work it in as you perform it, really.
Well, here's a question for you. Some of the best magicians in the world have started and got their start in their career at the House of Illusion, working underneath you and Rodney. Like some of the names that we consider like the greats, they've gone through the House of Illusion. So my question for you is, do you have any advice for somebody who's new into magic? They want to make a big name for themselves. They want to be doing what you're doing. They want to be at the top of their game. As somebody who's mentored a lot of people through this process, is there any advice you can give? Well,
I love mentoring. I really do. I think I picked up such a lot from Jeff and Eugene. It all comes down to flight time. And I get a lot of people over to the Chamber of Secrets now who are coming to be mentored. And they'll say, "I've written this act. I'm going to do this trick, this trick, this trick. I'm going to have this character. I'm going to have this costume." And they try and start everything from scratch. And it just doesn't work like that. That's not how you build it. You've got to, it's like just chipping away at something, so you take the trick that you're already good at, and then we'll tweak it. And then tomorrow we'll tweak it a little bit more. And then we'll add a little bit more the day after that. And you can only grow through growth, through time. It's the same as the weight loss thing that I'm going through now. Progress is slow, but it's progress. You're never going to lose 3 stone in a day. It takes months. And it's the same with magic. You're never going to have a great act after a few hours of practice. It takes months and years.
Well, Tom Crosby, who I interviewed on this channel, he openly said in his interview that he credits you for the performing nerd. And if it wasn't for you, there would be no Tom Crosby performing nerd.
He's such an arse licker.
He told
Tom's
the
done
story.
brilliant, and I'm pleased that he gives some kind of acknowledgement for what I helped him with, but it was all Tom, really. It was all there. I think if anything, I took Tom under my wing because I knew he was going to be great.
Mm.
You know, I hunted Tom out, really. I wasn't looking for well, I won't name anyone, but there's plenty who I wouldn't have taken on. And if I had have taken them on, they wouldn't have been as successful as Tom. Tom loved magic and had that character within him for years and years. And all I did was just chisel away a few rough edges and point him in the right direction. And he's done it all himself. So,
well, here's a question. Something that I've always seen that you do so well is you've got that character. I can tell, I can walk it. If there were 1,000 magicians performing, I could walk into a room blindfolded and I'd know where you were just from listening to you. Like, you've got such an iconic style. And that's the same thing with Tom. You know, Tom has got this performing nerd persona, which is very different. And you see so many generic magicians these days that they all dress in the same suit and they do the same trick and they make the same omnideck appear at the end and they sell the same jokes. And they're all like cookie cutter versions of, like, you know, you take a magician, put it in a machine, and then it clones out another 5 different versions of it. As somebody who's mastered the art of characterization, is there any advice you can give on that?
it's the same advice every time. You've just got to go out and do it. I mean, when I arrived at the House of Illusion on the first day, I was Eugene Berger storytelling serious magician with a few little quips here and there. And then Rodney said, again, it's another Rodney classic. He said, we've got no comedy magician this year, so you're going to do that. You're on tonight. So that night I went on as the comedy magician. And the whole character came really from having a squeaker. Do you know the little mouth squeakers?
Yeah, yeah.
Jeff McBride had a great routine with the mouth squeaker. So I put the mouth squeaker in. I already had the top hat and stuff, but I was wearing it quite seriously at that time. But I had the mouth squeaker and a cane and a little hand squeaker. And I went outside to do the meet and greet, opening the taxi doors. And I wouldn't say a word. I wouldn't speak at all. I just squeak with the squeaker and I'd beat people on the nose with the hand squeaker. And I'd do a bit of mime. And like if someone walked past, because we had a terrace, so there were people sat outside drinking on the terrace. And if someone walked past, I'd do the classic mime thing where I'd follow behind them. And if they turned around, I'd like look away. And that's where the comic character came from, outside opening the taxi doors.
Wow.
And then I'd take that inside. And then the first time they would hear me speak would be when the curtains open on stage.
That's incredible. And you've made that character your own now. I mean, you really have. I mean, it's just iconic to you.
The squeaker thing, we'll just go back to a little story. I used to do a lot of trade shows in the winter. I worked for 4 or 5 companies and the money was really good, but I hated it. You know, I hated every second of it. So the last two trade shows that I did, I just took my squeaker and a pack of cards. So all I was doing, and everybody hated me. Everybody, for booths and booths all around. Will you tell him to shut up? And then I didn't get booked again. So I kind of suicided my own career in the trade show.
But I mean, one thing that I'm getting from speaking to you at this point, Matt, is you've got to, you know, you only have one shot at life. You want to go and do something you enjoy. You know, you don't enjoy corporates. You don't really do it. You don't enjoy trade shows. You torpedo your career. You know what you enjoy doing. You know where you enjoy performing, and that's where you've always put your focus.
Yeah, and that it all comes from Eugene again. And it was just one thing that he said, about restaurant magic when he worked at Biggs in Chicago. And instead of him approaching the table, he got the waiter to approach and said, "Would you like to see our magician?" They would say yes. He'd then move everyone apart, bring a chair, and he would come and sit at the table. So now it's his theatre, it's his space, because he's invited and everyone else. If you just approach a table, you're invading their space. You're interrupting their time. You know, they might be talking business. They might be in the middle of a breakup from their marriage. Anything could be going on, and you're going over. Hiya, I'm Matt. I'm going to show you some magic. They might be the last thing they want to see. It might be the first thing that they need. They just don't know it. You know, you can change that mood, and that's the definite thing. But for me, I didn't like that uncomfortable approach, and I loved that Eugene had the space and he was there. So now it's his space, and you had to shut up. You had to be quiet.
Yeah. And you've just applied that to what you do.
I took it and made it a bit bigger. Yeah. What was that film? Build it and they will come.
Yeah, exactly.
Let them come to me. You know, like the busking. I never call it busking, but I was doing street shows, but they had to wait and come to me. And they'd be at a seat, and you couldn't leave, you couldn't walk off, and you had to pay at the end because you were there in a seat.
That's incredible. Now, one more question before we actually move on, which is, I want to ask you advice on something else as well, because when you started off your career, you were doing close-up magic. You talked about how you went to the nightclubs and you took a pack of cards and this and that and the other. You're known kind of more as a stage performer now. A lot of magicians, and I've talked about this with people like John Archer in the past, but I get so many questions on this channel. How can I become a stage magician? Close-up magicians want to take that leap, and they want to go from close-up to stage, but the thought of entertaining 50, 100, 200, 500 people scares the crap out of them compared to 4 people in a mix and mingle situation. What advice would you give about going up on stage?
I think you have to choreograph it a lot more. That'd be the main difference, I think. The tricks that I do are the same. Every trick that I do on stage has been tried and tested in close-up first.
Wow. Okay.
So everything that I do, I will take a version of that trick as a close-up trick, and then I'll just make it bigger and make it play bigger. So all the lines have been tried and tested. All the timing has been tried and tested. Well, know your material inside out before you get on the stage, because it is a scary place if you're not used to it. But every trick that I've done on stage, I've honed as a close-up trick. Really? Pretty much some kind of version of it. So I know the lines, I know the timing, I know the rhythm, and I know that it's a strong trick. And then I'll take it onto the stage and I'll expand it. And one thing that I am very big on is something I call camera theory, where you, every moment in my act is a photo opportunity. You never know when anyone's going to take a picture. So I can guarantee that whenever you take a picture, it's going to be an interesting picture. I'll have an expression on my face. My hands will be in a position. I'm never like that, ever. I'm always animated. There's always something. If I've given someone a card, I will pause like that. And I'm waiting. What's it going to be? And I did puppetry at university. I've been to university 3 times. One of the times I did puppetry. And the way that a puppet interacts with an audience is show, tell, show. So you will show what you're going to do. The puppet will move its hand and then look to the audience to say, "Can you see me? I'm moving my hand." And then he'll move his hand again. So it'll be like, "Get ready for the move. Look, are you ready for this? You ready? You're all watching? Good." Boom. And that's how a puppet communicates through motion. And I took that same principle into magic. So I will always be looking at the audience, and tying strings is an important thing.
What?
Tying strings with your eyes. You got to make eye contact with every member of your audience. So Jeff calls it tying strings. Now, when you're on stage and you've got the stage light shining at you and it's a pitch black audience, you can't see anybody. But on the tables at the House of Illusion, we had candles. I've got little lights on all my tables in the Chamber of Secrets. So I know where people are sitting. And I'll always make sure that I scan every bit of the room. Every minute or so, I'll be up here and then here, just so that everybody gets some eye contact. And then it's just like doing close-up then. Yeah. It's just you and them. If you bring them into it. And a lot of the things that I'll do, I'll have a lot of callbacks with audience members. So this character, and I think I learned this from Danny Dortis, this character is the fool, this character is the strong man, this one is the, you know, each person has a character, and you'll go back and interact with this person in the same way and this person in a different way, but a consistent way. So there's always a callback. Now my audiences are only 50 to 100 people really. So it's much easier to do that. With 500, it's a bit more difficult, but you can still do it. You can still have a few people in different areas that you can call on and go to, you know, even just a little look, like, you know what I'm talking about. And a lot of this, I guess, stagecraft, I learned from Matt Edwards.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah. Matt is a genius. I've never seen anybody with as much natural performing talent as Matt.
Yeah.
Just effortless. Sometimes I'd throw him a trick at the start of the night and say, right, you're doing that tonight. And he'd just master it. He'd nail it. Just an absolute genius. Magical genius, comic genius, and all-round lovely, lovely person.
I agree. I'm a big fan. I tell you what, it sounds like a very high pressure place, the House of Illusion. You know, the amount of times you've said to me, oh, I had 2 hours to learn this trick. I had 3 hours to put this act together to music. I had 4 hours to do that. It sounds like there was a lot of pressure going on, a lot of stress.
Well, yeah, I had 4 hours to put it together, but then I had 12 shows a week for 6 months to make sure it's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's no better learning ground. There's no better learning ground. You know, we were all throwing new routines in, and the beauty of it was, because there'd be an ensemble cast of maybe 8 or 10 magicians, if there's one bit that's new, it's 5 minutes in a 3-hour show. And the rest of the guys are doing solid stuff. So you can get away with one bit being a bit less.
That makes sense. You
know, because the rest of it's solid. I mean, Glenn, who works there, Glenn's just solid. You know, he might not win FISM, but you can absolutely rely on him to knock it out the park with the job that he's doing.
That's great.
You know, he'll be doing Vanishing Bandella or the Axtel drawing board or something like that. It's not groundbreaking magic, but he's such a professional and so honed with it that you can trust him 100%. And if I was going to send anybody on a job, it'd be Glenn, because you know absolutely what you're going to get. You know, it's going to be absolutely solid, and he's going to entertain, and he's going to come across brilliant because he's a lovely guy. So Glenn is the rock at the House of Illusion.
That's amazing.
Glenn is what everything else is built on. And for me, I was there just to add polish to things.
Well, in a minute, I want to talk about why you left the House of Illusion and what happened after that. But before we do, let's go back in time. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. And the first is you as a creator. Because the first time that you came on my radar was when you bought out your first DVD set. I think it was through Alakazam or RSVP. Or
The Unusual Suspect, Alakazam, yeah.
And I remember watching that and just being blown away. The Listerine packet thing, I still do to this day. And there's so much amazing magic on that set. What made you decide to start, because you're busy. You said yourself, you were traveling all over the world. You were at the House of Illusion, wherever you were at the time. What made you decide to start creating and releasing magic?
I think The Unusual Suspect was probably one of the last of that era or genre of magic releases around that time. And then it started to tail off, because at that point, magicians only released their life's work. You know,
Yeah,
you'd
I know
work
what
for
you mean.
30 years and you'd put your 8 best tricks on a VHS tape, and that'd be it. And you wouldn't have any more material.
You're right. I remember at the same time as Unusual Suspects came out, you had Dowden's Party Animal, you had Eye Candy by Gary Jones and Lee Smith, and The Unknown with Mark Bendell, Corporate Close Up. Yeah, some really solid stuff coming out where it wasn't a single trick. It was just like, incredible routine.
And before that, with all the tricker tapes and the A1 multimedia, it was everybody. You were getting 8 tricks that were all well worked out. They were all stuff that they'd been doing all their lives, and it was their best stuff. And then a year or two later, you're getting one trick DVDs and downloads and stuff that people, I mean, some of the time, don't get me wrong, there's been some brilliant magic coming out, but some of the time it's like, I've got a camera, I'm just going to film this and put it out.
And was it a case of Peter Nardi saying to you, hey, you're amazing, can we release a DVD on your work?
No, I owned Peter. Peter hadn't heard of me at all.
Oh, really?
No, I saw Peter at Blackpool the year before, and I asked him if he'd do one. He's like, yeah, just send me some. And then I saw him the year after, and I think I did the floating 3-fly, and he said, oh yeah, come down. So I think within a week I was down, and we'd done him. He said, have you any other stuff? I said, yeah, I've got some stuff. So what a gent. Absolute privilege working with Peter. What a really, really good guy, and a great you'll have to edit this while I get the word. Not an inspiration, just for magic, an influence, a great influence on modern magic, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the good guys, isn't he? I mean, he really is. Especially when you see there's some dealers that don't necessarily do things the right way. Peter's always done things the right way.
Yeah, a stand-up guy, absolute stand-up guy. And I remember the first time I met him, when I went down, he picked me up, and I think it was a convertible Mercedes, I think it was, and he took me for dinner and just treat you right. You know, you felt like a superstar.
What made you, Matt, decide to want to release that DVD? You said you hounded Peter and you put it out through Alakazam. Why did you want to do it? Did you want to be magic famous? Was that something that you wanted to be?
I saw it as a natural progression of the journey that I was on. I think it was a couple of things. I think I needed to release the coin trick before it got stolen.
Yeah.
I think somebody at some point was going to nick it and release it. So I had to get that out. And then the rest of the DVD just kind of came along with that trick.
Fair enough. But on the back of that, you then started releasing more material, and you haven't stopped. You know, from after working with Alakazam, you then bought out, I think the next thing you bought out was the Nut Dropper, wasn't it?
I brought out 3 at once. I did FISM, came second in FISM, and then on the back of that, decided to release some tricks, because I then had a decent name for myself. So I brought out the Nut Dropper, the 4-scene wallet, and the floating coin set, all as one release, because I had a lecture at Blackpool.
And did you release it through your own production company at that point?
Yeah, Marvelous Effects. Yeah.
And that production company has continued to bring stuff out to this day. I mean, how important is it, the production of tricks? Because we always see you at Blackpool every single year. You always bring out some really amazing stuff. You know, just a couple of years ago, you brought out all of those wonderful chip style routines, the pen through the chip, and more recently, the torn and restored card. Something that you brought out a couple of years ago that I carry with me every single gig I do is the kind of the magic square thing with the
Oh,
tile.
the outnumbered. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Like, you've been solidly releasing stuff, close-up magic and stage magic, ever since the nut dropper. You haven't stopped.
I love the process of it. I love the intellectual challenge of coming up with something. I love the manufacture process. I love teaching, and I love the design. Another thing I did at university, I did a degree in prop making.
At this point, I'm just going with it. That's amazing.
So yeah. So I spent 3 years designing and making magic tricks at university. Basically, I did my second year exam was the Tommy Wonder table, and then I just kind of kept on developing that. And just learned how the manufacture process worked, how tools worked, how design worked, and that set up Marvelous Effects. Really, that gave me the knowledge to be able to talk to people in the factories, to talk to designers, and push through the process. Really.
And you mentioned Tommy Wonder. Obviously, you released a few years ago. I don't think it's available to buy anymore. Your version of the Tommy Wonder watching
The Wonder Phone, I call it. The Wonder Phone. Yeah, which is an iPhone inside an old-fashioned telephone, inside a clear telephone box.
Yeah, which is amazing. You can't get those anymore, I don't think. I mean,
no, you can't.
It was a very limited release, but I mean,
we could make you a special one for the right price, but it'd be the right price because we'd have to start from scratch with it all again.
It is incredible. And a lot of the stuff that you've brought out is your own creation, but you have worked with other magicians in the past. I remember you bringing out a couple of things with Tom Crosby.
Yeah, done some stuff with Tom. I always thought there needed to be a DVD for Sharpie Magic, and Tom was much cheaper to get than Rick Merrill, so I went with Tom.
Hey, it's very good though, that project. It's absolutely amazing.
For what it is, yeah, the Pencyclopedia, it really is. Yeah, it's quality project. And that was the only one that I didn't film. Mark Woodsford, who works for Vanishing Ink now and does a lot of the filming, he set up a filming business and he filmed the Pencyclopedia.
Oh, okay.
He actually filmed the Nut Dropper as well. It was through that process of, because I was a photographer, as I said, so I knew a lot about cameras, and Mark didn't. He was just really keen to learn. So together, me and Mark kind of went through the process and learned how to do it together, really. So from then on, I think I asked someone for my next project how much it was going to cost, and the price that they quoted me, it was as cheap to buy a couple of cameras and learn to do it myself.
Wow.
So that's what I did. So I just self-taught on the editing, and I think I've got all right at it now.
You absolutely have. So here's a question. The other holy grail for magicians is to create their own magic, to be a magic creator, to sell magic to magicians. As somebody that's done that an awful lot, have you got any advice for aspiring, budding magicians that want to create and release their own products? Because you know as well as me, there's so many terrible tricks that come out these days.
Don't release anything that you don't perform.
Mm-hmm.
Every trick that I've ever done, I perform for a summer before I release it. Every trick has been worked in. You know, I know it inside out. Often when I first release it, or when it's first ready, I might not have all the knowledge that I need about it. Because it's a brand new prop, it's coming from the manufacturers, and all I've played with is prototypes. But once I've got it, I will work it for a summer, and I know every trick that I've ever released inside out because I've worked them all, every single one of them.
That's really good advice. And where do you get your inspiration from? Because that's something that a lot of magicians struggle with. Let's take, you've mentioned it before, it's probably the trick you're most well known for, which is the three fly. And if people haven't seen this, it's incredible. I think it's the best coin trick in the world. And I remember people telling me about this before I saw it myself. And I'm like, what? That can't be right. But genuinely, Matt does a three fly where the first two coins go across and you've solved the final coin problem, because everybody wants to know how to do that final coin. Matt just makes that final coin just float across. It's incredible. And you've made it so practical with all the various different iterations that you've brought out over the years. How did that routine come to be? Where did the inspiration come from?
Well, every trick that I release has a different story behind it. And this one is Jeff, really, to be honest. It was Jeff McBride. We were working on a competition act. We were doing the Magic Circle Magician of the Year close-up competition, just working on some stuff. I'd already done the Reformation, and I'd bought the 3-fly routine from Mark Mason, Come Fly With Me, which was a brilliant routine. And I think Jeff's, like a lot of people did you want to see it go slow?
Yeah.
That gag. And Jeff said, what if we could do that? What if we could actually do it and make it go slow? So we workshopped it. We played about with a lot of stuff. And again, Jeff's knowledge, he knew, I can't remember the guy. I'm terrible at crediting, but there was John Carney, I think, had a card that went in his Cards Across routine. Underneath his jacket, he had a card that visibly goes across. So we kind of adapted that hookup and gave it a try. So we had a dollar coin with some tape and some string, and it worked. So then I took that away and started working on it and refining it and got it to where it was. And that's been a project that just hasn't stopped. That's probably 15 years in the making. And I'm about to release the newest version of it.
Really? How can it be improved even more?
Well, this isn't the coin trick. I've made everything float in this using the same technique. I will be coming back to the coin trick soon. But the next one, I don't know if you remember a trick called Horizon that I released, which was a deck of cards and one card floats out.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, this is New Horizons, which is in manufacture now. It should be out in a couple of months, hopefully. And this is everything that's self-contained in a stack of cards, so you can add it to your deck. So all the hookup and stuff, there's none of that. It's all self-contained that you can carry around in your pack of cards, so there's never any tangling and stuff like that. So that's something I'm really excited about. And then the next stage is to take the idea of the poker chip floating across. I don't know if you've seen that. Yes. But I built a reel into the poker chip, so like a spool into the poker chip. So the next stage is to take that into a coin and put a motor in it, so it'll now be motorized. That's the idea.
That's incredible. Actually, before we go any further, what's the URL for your magic shop so that people can I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen.
Marvelouseffects.com.
And you ship worldwide with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't.
Somebody does.
Somebody does.
One of your underlings.
No, he won't watch. He don't give a shit about me. He won't be watching. You can call him what you want.
And what advice would you give somebody who's trying to find inspiration? So you talked about the inspiration with the 3-fly. How do you find? Is there a way when you're wanting to create a trick? Do you look at a plot and try and improve it?
It's different every time. Every time is different. Sometimes it's out of necessity. You know, I've got this thing that I need to happen, and anything that's out there at the minute isn't suitable for how I want it to work. So I now have to invent a way of making that happen. Other times, like the Wonder Phone would be, I just loved the idea of Tommy Wonder's trick. So how can I now not improve on it, but take it in a new direction? So that was the inspiration. Just it's a brilliant trick and I want to put my stamp on it. So that's often the case. Sometimes it's just trying to do something a bit different, or sometimes it's just a mental challenge, you know, something, or sometimes it's just a brain, you know, a flash, and you think, fucking hell, that'd be great. And it just comes to you, and within a day, it's done. And sometimes it's a 2 or 3 year process. It's different every single time.
That's crazy. And if somebody's out there and wants to work with you, they've got an amazing product, do you still work with people, or is it really your own stuff?
Yeah, no, I've got one coming out. I think it's coming off the manufacturer in 2 weeks, so it'll be out in a couple of months again, with Jamie Williams. I don't know if you know Jamie Williams.
The name rings a bell. I don't think I know him personally, but
He's a really nice lad. He's not particularly well known in the magic circle, but hopefully he will be after this trick, because it's a great trick. That's called Celebrity.
oh, cool, nice name.
Where you shall I say? I don't know. I'll say it, and then if I decide that we're going to edit it out, we'll edit it out. I don't know. Yeah, so it's called Celebrity, and basically it's a Yale key that you hold in your hand. You think of a superhero, and it's Batman, and you open your hand, and the key is now the shape of Batman.
That's very cool. That's very.
It is. It's a really cool trick. It's a great trick.
I love tricks that are organic, that you can carry around with you, and you can do, and it feels organic. That sounds great.
I love Steve Rowe's Lolly Hero. I think that's a fab trick. Very organic. Again, it's like something that a magician might do. It's a skill, I guess, more than a magic trick. Is Lolly Hero. I would present it more as a skill, like a chiseling skill, more than a magic trick. But it's a similar feel, but it's a magic trick.
That's amazing. And that's coming out soon.
That should be out really soon. Yeah, this should be off the production line in the next couple of weeks. Who knows when it'll be out though, because it's I've got the RSVP Hero box, which is a solid metal Lippincott box, which is very much like the Pauper Strong box, but it's a Lippincott box.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been in manufacture for about 3 years, but it was completed in November, and it's still in the shipping process of getting to the wholesaler through COVID. It's there now. It's gone through customs. It's cleared. They now can't get anyone to pick it up from customs and take it to the depot.
That's crazy.
It's been 4 months of shipping.
That's crazy.
COVID gone crazy. The world's gone crazy, hasn't it?
It really has. And I actually want to talk about that in a minute. But you've referenced something many, many times, and I really want to talk about it, which is the other thing that you're really well known for, Matt, which is entering and winning competitions.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, some people hate it. I mean, you love it. I know you love it because I've spoken to you about this before. Why do you love entering? What was your reason behind wanting to enter competitions? Because some people do it because they want to further their career. What was the reason?
Just showing off, innit? I'm a bit of a big head, really. And it's all right walking the walk, but you got to talk the talk. You can't say, "Oh, I'm a good magician," and then you got to go out and prove it. That's one answer. It's probably not the real answer, but it's quite a fun answer. The real answer is a lot deeper than that. The real answer is, and I don't know if I'll cry. I sometimes cry when I tell this, and I'm starting to well up now. When I worked with my dad, it was the best times of my life. We worked together. We were in the kitchen, really high pressure, on the bar, cooking, and it was great, great times. And I had to leave him behind to go and work abroad and do the magic. So I wrote him a letter, and I said, I'm only going to do this if I can become the best magician in the world. That was my reason. The only justification I could give myself for leaving my dad behind was to become the best magician in the world. And the only way I could prove that was to enter FISM. And FISM was at Blackpool. And I remember saying to Derek Lever, it was 500 quid a ticket. I said, I want my dad to come. So Derek gave us a few complimentary tickets so my family could be there. And I finished the FISM act, and there's 800 people there. And the whole room stood up. I got a standing ovation from the whole room. And I saw my dad. I just gave him a little wink. And he was crying. I'm like, see, I'm welling up now. Mad.
What a story.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But showing off and big head don't make me cry, and it sounds better. So we'll go with that.
That is really awesome. And before you entered FISM, you entered the close-up the Magic Circle. And,
yeah,
and
I've won a couple of local competitions.
Mm-hmm.
I've won like the Manchester Circle, and I got it the first time Harry Robson saw me. Was when I tried to enter Blackpool the close-up competition at Blackpool, the British Magical Championships. And Derek told me I had to send a VHS tape in. And Derek and Harry were on the board of who got entered. And Harry's told me the story. He said, Derek called me in. He said, have you seen this bloody idiot here? There's no chance he's entering. Because I was doing cups and balls, but doing it robotic with a mask on like Jeff McBride. And he said, there's no chance. So I didn't get in. And then the year after, I did the Blackpool, the Manchester Circle, and winning that automatically got you entered into Blackpool. So I was going into Blackpool. I think David Penn was in it that year. And I was really, really confident. I had a great act. And the finale, you had to do it in 3 rooms at that time because there were so many people watching. So I did it the first 2 rooms and got standing ovations in the first 2 rooms. And then I went into the main room where the judges were, and I'd saved some extra special bits for the judges. And one of them was doing a 1 spin and tapping, and I had a full bottle of champagne, which I then poured into the cups and balls, and we all had a drink and a cheers, and that was the end of the act. So the act went perfectly. I was absolutely smashing it. And I practiced loads, and the bottle appeared, and it was beautiful. I popped the cork, and because I'd hit it with the wand, boom, the champagne just exploded everywhere. So my first instinct was to put my mouth over it. So I put my mouth over it, and it literally came out of my eyes. It was shooting with so much power. It came down my nose, came out my eyes, and it was so fizzy, it just took my breath away, and I couldn't breathe. So I'm stood there for like about 15 seconds, just tears coming out my eyes, champagne coming out my nose. I didn't know what to do, and I just walked off. So that was the end of my thing. And I think I came 4th. But I'm pretty sure I'd have won that if that hadn't happened.
Oh, God.
So from there, I kept on going with it. Did the Magic Circle, won the Magic Circle. Did International the year after when Sean Farquhar won. I beat Dynamo in that competition, which was quite cool. He wasn't happy about that. He was very upset about that. And that annoyed me that I didn't win. So I entered that again and won. Then I did the IBM just as a practice, as a warm-up to FISM. And Sean Farquhar had won FISM at that time. And he was watching me do the IBM act. And I won that, and he came up to me afterwards. Said, that's a really great act, that. He said, you should enter FISM. I said, I'm doing it this time. He said, I'm judging FISM this time. I said, oh, great. He said, what category are you entering? I said, I'm entering Parlour category. He said, brilliant. That's the perfect category for that act. That act will smash it in Parlour. Perfect for you. He said, do you know if Jan Frisch is entering? I said, yeah, he is. He said, what category is he in? I said, he's in Parlour. Sean looked at me, he said, you should do close-up. So the judges, 4 months before, already knew that Jan Frisch was going to win FISM. We all knew. Everybody knew.
Mm.
It was such a great act.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, without Jan, I wouldn't be the magician that I got to be.
How come?
Because, first of all, the first time I saw your Jan Frisch's act was on YouTube. I was working in Andorra, a ski resort, northern Spain, with Matt Edwards. And I saw this YouTube video. Someone sent it to me. It was Jan Frisch doing his cups and balls. I was like, shit, this guy's changed magic. He's changed the way I look at magic completely. And then I went to FISM Europe, and he was stood in the queue. And I said, I've seen your act. It's amazing. And his face dropped because I think he'd taken it down off YouTube because he was competing. So he was competing in close-up, I think, and I was in Parlour. And he got switched over into Parlour and won, and I came second in FISM Europe, which I was a bit annoyed about, but it is what it is. But anyway, we were both then competing in FISM Worlds in the Parlour category. And I knew the level that I had to get to beat Jan Frisch. So the amount of work and effort you have to go into to get ready for FISM is unbelievable. I couldn't do it again. There's no way I could do it. It's 24/7. Just I'd video every performance at the House of Illusion. I'd go back and I'd watch it and rewatch it and rewatch it. Look for tiny little movements. Should I put my hand here or should I put it here? Here or here? Just the tiniest little detail, and do that for 6 months. And I got my act to such an incredible level, way good enough to beat Jan. But I'd forgot that Jan would also be doing 6 months of that same thing to make his better. So by the time he got back to FISM, I was better than Jan at FISM Europe, but he'd raised his game so much. So much. I watched it. I'd competed on the Friday, I think, and Jan competed on the Saturday, and I watched it. I thought, second's all I can hope for.
Wow.
And I got second, so it was good.
And you'd never, I know that you don't like to lose at things like that. Haven't you ever considered going back and doing it again and trying to?
I did go back. I went back and came third. I've got three FISM trophies. I've got 3 FISM awards. And I was going to go back this time before it got cancelled. Been working on a new act, but 6 months out, I knew I wasn't going back.
Really?
Just, it's changed again. It's another level. It's the kids who are hungry. I've got 2 kids in the house. I've got a wife. I've got a business. I've got a mortgage. I can't put the time in to get it to that standard. Where there's 20-year-old kids who are so hungry for it that they're not going to sleep and they're going to work 24 hours a day to make sure they beat me. So let them have it. I haven't got the appetite for it now.
So what advice would you give somebody who does want to compete at the highest level? I mean, obviously you've said, put the work in, flight time, analyze the performance, go back and do it again and again and again. Is there any other advice? I mean, because you went out and worked directly with Jeff McBride, didn't you? I mean, that's...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had so many classes with Jeff. I've been to so many of his master classes. I've been to his home and had private lessons many times. I've had tons of classes online with him. Jeff's a genius. Find a good mentor, someone who knows what they're talking about. Find Jeff, basically, if you can. Get Jeff. Find someone else. You know, I might take a student on. I might, but there's plenty of good teachers out there. So find a mentor, someone to run it by. But importantly is find yourself. You know, you've got to find your own character. Every judge that I've ever spoken to who I've asked about my act, they've always said that it was the character was the first thing.
Really?
100%. And if you look through any FISM winner, 90% of them, it would be the character.
Yeah.
Jan Frisch, it's all about the character. Sean Farquhar's all about the character. I mean, Sean's magic wasn't all that groundbreaking.
No.
To win FISM, but such a charming guy that you just fall in love with him when he performs and he draws you into his world. So Sean was all about character. You know, any FISM winner that you look back on over time has been about character, whether it be stage or close up.
That's very true.
So get your character. You have to know who you are and then do some great magic. And then you have to throw in 1 or 2 bits that have never been done. Right. You have to have the FISM bit. I mean, it depends what level you're competing at.
What was the FISM bit in your act?
Well, I was multiplying everything. I started off with an empty table and just a top hat. And by the end of the act, the table was completely covered. Absolutely covered in card boxes, cigarette boxes, cards, coins. Just, there wasn't an inch spare on my table. And then I pulled out a bouquet of feather flowers, comedy flowers. There was a huge confetti cannon built inside. The confetti cannon went up, and when you look down, I had 2 tables covered in stuff. So I'd multiplied everything, and then for the finale, I'd multiplied the table, which had never been done. You know, that was like, whoa, where the fuck did that come from? Am I allowed to say that?
Oh yeah, of course you are. Yeah.
Yeah, where the fuck did that come from? And that was the thing that was the FISM bit, the FISM finish, we called it.
So how do you find your FISM finish? Because you're right, I'm thinking about it right now, and I'm thinking about all the FISM acts that I know of, and they've all got that moment. They really have. Where do you find that? Where do you find that? Is there any advice?
Well, I guess if it was easy, we'd all be doing it.
Is that the truth?
You know, I mean, there's nothing other than pure hard work. My FISM act wasn't ready until I would say 2 weeks before FISM. I was constantly changing. I'd take one bit out, I'd put something else in, I'd change position of it, and I never ran it as it ran at FISM until probably 2 weeks before.
Right.
So it's constantly adjusting. It's like the Olympics. It's just like the Olympics. You know, an athlete will not run 9.4 seconds every day of the week when he's training. He's pushing himself for that one day, and everything's geared towards that one moment. And that's what FISM was like. For the other competitions, it's probably a little easier. You know, some of them I hardly broke sweat to win.
Yeah. Well, no, go on.
No, go on. Yeah.
I was going to say, here's a question. You talked about when you entered FISM, you were working at the House of Illusion. You were doing that act every single night, twice a night, day in, day out. What does a jobbing magician do? You know, let's say it's your average close-up guy, your average stage guy. One day they're doing a corporate event. The next day they're doing close-up magic at a wedding. The next day they're emceeing a corporate awards dinner. The next day they've got a few days off. Then they're back doing close-up at a wedding. Whatever it may be, they haven't got the opportunity to have the flight time that you had, where you're doing it in. And you're saying today,
you have to. It's all about dedication. That's why I can't win FISM now, because I can't do that. You have to have the dedication. How did Lance Burton win FISM? Where did Lance practice his dove act?
In Vegas.
No,
I didn't know. No,
Lance practiced his dove act. He was doing kids' parties.
Was he?
He was doing 3 kids' parties a day, taking his lamppost in and his doves, and at the end of the kids' show, he'd do his dove act.
I did not know that.
That's where he honed his act.
Wow.
You know, Sean Farquhar, where's Sean Farquhar doing his act? Sean's working cruise ships constantly. So he finds a way to fit his act into his working act. Yeah. If you want to do it, you have to find a way. Like I say, it's not easy.
If it was, everybody would be doing it, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's get back on track. So you've just done 6 years at the House of Illusion.
Yeah.
What you've got marvelous effects going. You're creating magic. You're releasing magic. You're at the top of your game. You've done really well in lots of different competitions. What made you decide to turn around to Rodney and say, "See ya"? And do you have a plan as to what you're going to do next?
Well, it didn't happen like that, for starters. Okay. But I'd already left the House of Illusion after year 2 or 3. I left and went to Malta and set up the Chamber of Secrets in Malta.
Okay.
And it was okay. It was a good business. It was starting to get some real traction, but I was doing one show a night, 3 nights a week. So I was only doing 3 shows a week. And I was getting ready for FISM. I was coming up to another FISM competition. So I needed the time. So I sold the business to Brian Roll. He's still running it as the Chamber of Mysteries. It's still going. And I went back to Salou, to House of Illusion, to get more flight time. So you're saying, how do you get the time? You sell your business.
I was about to say, now that's a massive sacrifice, isn't it? You know, I need to get
more. My wife wasn't happy. I can tell you. We'd packed our life in and moved to Malta. And within 4 months, I says, we've got to go back to Spain.
I can only imagine.
What a fantastic woman. for coming with me, you know?
I don't think my wife would have done that. She would have said, "See you later. I'm staying here."
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Incredible.
then at the end, so we already had the experience of knowing that we could set up the Chamber of Secrets and that it would work. So there was no fear in that respect. And it's something that I've been working towards and planning for since I was 18. You know, my head was always going to do this. And the 6 years that I spent with Rodney, I learned so much more than I would have done if I'd have just gone and done it. So I was both good and bad. You know, Rodney had certain ways of doing things that I didn't agree with, that I changed and wanted to do it my way in my own place. And similar, Rodney doesn't think that some of my ideas work, you know, and we're both very successful with it. So I'm sure both methods work. But at the end of it, it didn't end well between me and Rodney, to be honest.
Okay.
We're fine now. We're all pals now. But there was tension that got to a point where it was just, we've got to call this a day now. It's come to the end of the road. And it ended quite badly. And then slowly over time, those wounds have healed between us both, and we're back on track. And I'd say we're pals again. So that's good.
That's good. That's awesome. So you're now so you are now running the Chamber of Secrets 2.0 in, is it Torremolinos?
In Torremolinos, yeah, Costa del Sol.
Yeah. And how long have you been running that for now? We've
been here for six or 7 years. I don't know if I count last year or not. I don't know.
Why not?
Yeah, we didn't know. Well, we did a few shows, but not many. So I think 6 years, I think we've been here.
But obviously, over let's just not count 2020 for obvious reasons, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the previous 5 or 6 years, it's become more and more and more popular. And I mean, you've been smashing it over there, right?
No, yeah, I have been smashing it, but it hasn't become more popular. I had a 12-month and a 2-year plan and targets of what we wanted to hit numbers wise, and we were hitting them within 2 months. You know, we'd sold out. In the 5 years before COVID, I would say we had 150 seats empty throughout the whole 5 years.
Wow.
Just completely sold out. We became the #1 thing to do on TripAdvisor for the whole of the Costa del Sol, then for the whole of Andalusia, then for the whole of, and then it got to the top 10 for the whole of Spain. And they don't number it, so you don't know where you are in the top 10. They just say these are the top 10 things in mainland Spain, the Balearics, the Canaries, and we were in the top 10. We got shortlisted for a tourism award. We're up against the Gaudi Museum, the Marine Centre in Madrid, like multi-million-pound businesses, and there's me and the missus working behind the bar.
Incredible. And what I know Tom was involved in here early on. Tom Crosby.
Yeah, Tom did 2 years with us. Yeah.
Do you have anyone else running that with you, or is it because obviously Rodney, who you kind of spent 6 years studying, he has a massive team around him?
Yeah.
Is it just you and the missus, or do you have other?
Yeah, it's me and the missus and a bar staff or 2 maybe, but it's usually a team of 3 or 4. And we're in there and I'll be at the cash and carry. I'll be stocking up the shelves. We'll be cleaning up beforehand. We're cleaning up after. So we'll go in at 5 or 6 o'clock and we'll leave at 12 o'clock at night. And in the daytime, you're doing stock takes or whatever else you're doing, selling tickets, doing the business side of stuff.
And you love it?
I don't know. So I quite enjoyed doing bugger all for a year. I say doing bugger all. I haven't done bugger all. I've been probably as busy as I've ever been.
And we're
gonna
yeah.
I do love it. Do you know?
Because it was your dream, right? From when you were 18. You talked about it.
Yeah, it was. But careful what you wish for as well, a little bit. Because you're doing so much magic. And it wasn't at the Chamber of Secrets that this happened. This was at House of Illusion, where you just become null, where you just become numb to it. I get very little buzz from performing magic. Very little buzz.
And why is that?
Just done it so much. I remember I was in Thailand, went traveling around Thailand, and I was on this tiny little island in the middle of whatever ocean it is. I don't know. Geography. Yeah, so I'm on this tiny little island, and over in this corner, just a little hut, I see Paul Harris having a beer. I said to my wife, I said, Paul Harris is over there. I said, who? I said, it's a magician. I know him. He said, you don't? I said, I do. I'm going over. So I went over. I said, you're Paul Harris, aren't you? He said, yeah, I am. And he looked really shocked. I said, what are you doing here? He said, oh, just hiding away from the world. He said to me, what are you doing here? I said, I've been looking for you. And his face dropped. And we chatted for a good while, a few days, actually, on and off. We met a few times. And he said, have you burnt out yet? And I didn't understand what he meant. He said, I have no love for performing magic at all anymore. I can't do it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. And I felt so sad and depressed that such a great of magic didn't enjoy doing magic anymore. And I don't know if he planted a seed, actually, thinking about it, the bastard. He might have planted that seed that the joy of performing is going to run out, but it did.
So here's the thing. Why do you still do it? Because you've always, from speaking to you for the last hour and however long it's been, the one thing I've got from you is if you don't enjoy doing something, you don't do it. You do things because you enjoy doing it.
No, that's not what I said. I didn't say I didn't enjoy doing it. I said I don't get the buzz that a lot of magicians get. I enjoy the process of magic. When I'm on stage, I still don't think I know how to do a trick. I haven't mastered any trick yet. I'm still learning everything that I do. I haven't mastered one trick. And every time I'm on stage, if I'm not just, it's difficult not to phone it in. We'll talk about that in a second. But if I'm really switched on, I will be tweaking constantly and I'll get an enjoyment from that. So I will put an extra breath in before I deliver a line, or I'll pause for an extra second just to see what happens, just to see what happens to the room, to see what happens to the atmosphere, see if it changes the performance. So I'm constantly learning. I love learning and I love growing and I love improving. And I still get that when I'm turned on, when I'm switched on.
So it's different to Paul Harris, because Paul Harris said he can't perform, he doesn't want to perform, he doesn't like to perform. You still like to perform, but you just don't get that kick.
Yeah, I think so. I never get nervous. Never get nervous. It's just another day at the office, really, which you've got to be so careful about. And I think this would be the main thing that I learned from Rodney, is that the people who are coming through my door, it's £35 a ticket to come to my show. And it's in a working class tourist area. And it's a family of 4. So it's 150 quid to come and watch my show. And you've saved up all year. You've done overtime. You haven't gone to the pub. You've missed weekends away. You've worked and you've saved. You haven't had that extra treat to go on holiday. And this is probably the most expensive night of your holiday.
Yeah.
So I have such a massive responsibility to make sure that you enjoy that night. It's such a heavy burden, you know? I've got to make sure that you haven't wasted your money. And I take that responsibility really, really seriously. And I think I've definitely got that from Rodney. Rodney used to talk about that all the time. You know, if we had a half, at the start of the season at House of Illusion, it's 150-seater theatre. I remember one night we had 6 people because it was like the start of the season, or it must have been when the volcano was going on. There was a reason where the audience was tiny. And Rodney came in, he said, these 6 people are the most 6 important people of the season because they've made the effort. They're here and we've got to work extra hard to make sure that they enjoy it more than anybody else. And we did. And we had the best night ever. And the same thing happened in Malta. When we first started up in Malta, I had a bus company booked to go and pick people up from hotels and stuff. And there were only 2 people booked on that night. And Rodney always said he'd never cancel. He would never cancel anything. You know, if it was bingo in the hotel and there are only 2 people there, you do the bingo, because tomorrow there might be 4 people there. So there were 2 people booked on the show in Malta. So instead of getting the bus, I went and picked them up in my car. I had a little convertible BMW. I said, I'll come and pick you up from the hotel myself. So we went out, picked him up, brought them to the show. We did the show, a 2.5-hour show for 2 people. And at the end of the show, we went out for drinks with them, took them for a meal, and he then went back to England, got into magic, and I think he took lessons with Noel Qualter, took magic lessons, all from that one experience, where most of the businesses would have closed. They said, well, no, we cancel that night. You'll have to come back another time, or it's not worth it for us. We lost money on the night, but we gave that couple the best night of their holiday, and that's what it's about. It's really, really important to do that.
That's probably the best advice I've heard in a long time. And it's something that is applicable to every single magician. Treat your clients with respect. It doesn't matter whether you're in a theatre or you're getting hired by bride and groom. You know, they've made a decision to book you, and you owe it to them to do the best possible job that you can do.
Absolutely. Especially for weddings. I mean, can you imagine how much expense there is at a wedding and how much they've had to scrimp and save? And this is the most important day of their lives. And you're playing a massive part of that. You know, you can make or break that wedding. I mean, you don't, but you can certainly enhance that wedding. You can put everyone in the best mood possible to have the best day possible. You can play a huge part in that day being a success. And that's a massive responsibility. And some people, it's just another job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sad, really.
It really is. And that's amazing advice. It really is, Matt. And it just shows the type of person you are. Let me ask you another question. So you're running the Chamber of Secrets, you're winning all these awards, tourism awards, and, you know, top 10 this and top 10 that, and everyone's coming, and you've never got you've never got a quiet night in the house. And then all of a sudden there's a global pandemic. Now, magicians all over the globe, and magicians watch this from all over the world, they've all been in the same situation where they've had to basically take a step back, not being able to perform. They've been in a situation where they're being told that they're not viable and they should retrain and all this. But you're in a situation where you've got overheads you've got a venue that you operate, you've got costs that you have to pay regardless. And you're in the middle of a tourism destination, and no tourists can visit. I mean, this must have been
we haven't had a penny from the government.
And you
haven't had a single penny, not one penny, nothing. So the magicians that are moaning that are furloughed on 80%, and they're saying, complaining, oh, he says my job's not viable. Your job's not viable. You're not allowed to go out. Stop moaning about it and crack on with something else. You know, I've got a massively successful business that overnight closed with overheads, and I don't get a single penny from the government. But you just crack on, don't you? You've got to do stuff.
But what you've done in the last year has been just inspirational, motivational. It really has. Because like you say, you spent the last year being busier than you ever have been. And
I've started 4 businesses in the last year. You know what?
I spoke about, and I want to hear about this, because I spoke to, I said on this channel right at the very beginning of lockdown, I said, what does this make possible? Okay, so you can't go and perform. So what can you do? Because if you come out of this on the other side and all you've done is sat around getting your free money from the government, and then you go out and perform again, you've completely missed the trick. This should be an opportunity to develop something or grow something. It might be improve your act. It might be set up another business. In my case, this YouTube channel, whatever it may be. But you have to go out and do something. You've set up 4 businesses in the last year.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Not all successful. A couple of them really successful. One with really good potential. But yeah, and I've set up a YouTube channel as well.
Can you tell to us about some of the stuff you've been doing? Obviously, the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
Everyone knows
I
this.
started. I did do a few virtual shows and lectures, which were okay. You know, they were all right. I love the technology. You know, I love doing stuff. So my online show was very, very technical. I had a lot of video elements in it, a lot of overlays, a lot of stuff going on. It was a really high-tech show. And I loved the setting that up. I was learning new skills. I was learning how to use programs and things like that. So I really enjoyed that. But I didn't really like the magic. I didn't like performing. And I went back to my old days where I used to do the casinos and the race nights. So I set up an online race night company doing virtual race nights, and that took off.
Wow.
Really, really good business. Me and Matt Coleman. So Matt does a lot of the marketing. He's very good with the SEO, all that sort of stuff. So he does all that, and I turn up. Got me John McCrarick head thing. Let's see if I've got any backgrounds here. There we go. Let's stick that one up. It's not letting me do it. Oh, there we go. Let's try that. There, so we can have a night at the races. We're at the dogs and stuff like that. I've got my little bow tie on. So that's a really, really successful business, doing really, really well with that. Got the Web of Secrets. That was my online show and doing lectures, stuff like that. But I'd started doing videography. Did a lot of video stuff for just commercial clients. There's a guy down the road in Marbella, multi-millionaire, owns a vodka company. And he was having a party that one of my friends works at, like doing balloons and all the decorations and stuff. I said, let me come down and video his party. I'll do it for free. You know, because nobody knows who I am. No one knows I can do videos. So I'll do him a video for free, and I'll see if I can kickstart that business. So I did them. A lovely family. I've done loads of work promoting a vodka company now, a multi-million-dollar vodka company, and they've got friends all over Marbella, so they're all having parties and birthdays and other businesses. So that's been a business that's really, really grown and expanded, which I've really enjoyed doing that. My wife set up Cutie Pie Couture, which is selling kids' clothes, and she's doing a YouTube channel with that. So I help film and edit that. So that's another business that we've got going. I set up something for gimbals. I Go Gimbal, I called it, a gimbal company. That died on its arse. That was a really bad one. Bad idea for that. But you got to try it, haven't you? You got to have a go.
I mean, you really are a true entrepreneur. You really are. And it's like I say, that's what you do. When the chips are down, what do? You adapt, you improvise, you grow, you improve, you pivot, you diversify, all these buzzwords.
Exactly. And if our business comes back, which I hope it will, then I've still got these other businesses as well now. So yeah, you should come back out the other side with more than you've gone into it with.
And are you hopeful that things are going to get back to normal with the Chamber of Secrets?
Yeah, I guess so. I've got no idea when. If the world gets back to normal, then we'll go back to normal. Like I said earlier, but I'll say it again. We've signed our contracts for the summer. We sell our show through TUI and Jet2 and all those sorts of people. TripAdvisor, you can book all your tickets on all those services. And the boss of TUI phoned me up asking when we were open. I said, I don't know. And he said, well, I need to know, then I can put the dates on. I said, well, when are you bringing tourists? He said, I don't know. So, well, the first day that you land a plane with tourists, I'll open. Until then, I'm just not going to think about it. Because it's pointless. Because last year, it was open and it was stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. We didn't know whether we should open. And then we went for it. We opened at half capacity. And I remember the TUI reps, their planes were supposed to arrive on the Monday. The first TUI holiday makers from Britain were arriving on the Monday. So we had all the reps come to the Saturday show so they could see it and they knew what they were selling. There you go, the Chamber of Secrets.
Nice.
Bit of branding. So they all came to the show, and on the Saturday night, at the first interval, Boris announced no international travel. So that just closed our business down over like there and then in the interval. But not only that, half of our audience were TUI reps, and they'd all just lost their jobs in that interval as well. So the second half of that show was a bit miserable.
I can imagine it would have been. Oh my God. Oh,
and they were literally, I'm looking out and there's people crying. I'm like, fucking hell. Not in a good way. I hadn't touched them emotionally.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely insane. And let me ask you about the fat mat stuff. Now that has taken over the internet. I'm guessing that's the YouTube channel that you talked about.
Fat Matt, yeah. Fitness struggles of a middle-aged dad.
Where did all this come from? Like, what gave you the what? I mean, I don't know how your brain works. Where this has grown massively. Like, tell me.
It's getting really, really good. I'm enjoying it. Basically, I was 13 stone when I got married 4 years ago. And I weighed myself 3.5 months ago and I was 19 stone. So I'd put 6 stone on in that time, probably 2 stone over lockdown and then 4 stone over the 4 years. And I couldn't chase my kid around the garden. You know, I couldn't wipe my bum. I couldn't reach. Couldn't reach round. I was a physical mess. Just couldn't fit in my suits, and something had to change. I had this time where I had to do something. I always wanted to be on YouTube. I've got all the equipment. I've got the studio. I've got the setup. I've got the technical know-how. So what I needed to do was find a niche. And fat dads with kids, you know, you don't have time to go to the gym. You don't know what's what. So there was a niche there that I thought people might be interested in. But the main reason for doing it was that I needed to keep myself accountable. If I've gone on and told the world, listen to me because I'm going to teach you how to lose weight, I've got to lose weight. Otherwise I look like a dick.
Yeah.
So I've lost 3.5 stone in 3 months.
That's great. And what's the goal?
I'm halfway there.
How many subscribers have you got now?
Not many, only a few hundred, but it's growing. It's a steady thing.
Goal?
You know.
Are you wanting to monetize it eventually? Are you wanting?
I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if that's what it comes to, and the opportunity's there. If YouTube come to me and say, "Do you want some money?" I'm not going to say no. The feedback that I've got from it has been the most important thing for me so far. I've been amazed by it. The messages that I get saying how inspired and how much of an inspiration I've been to them. I went to the pub yesterday. A guy came up to me. I've stopped eating bread because I've seen your show. I've lost a stone. Thanks very much. I get messages all the time. I know you've got Mark Bennett on at some point soon. His bar manager, he's lost 3 stone since watching me. Wow. There's so many people who are following along with it, and it's just like, I can't stop now. I've got a responsibility, and it's a real gang that we've got, a real team that we've got. We're building a real community of fat dads who are losing weight for the kids, and I love it.
It's fantastic. That's really awesome.
I went to a party a couple of weeks ago. There was a little kids' party. Took our kids there. And the woman whose kid it was said the bar owners made you a special buffet. So what? He found out that I was going. I don't really know him. It's been to the show, I think, but he'd seen my channel, and he said all the buffets, sausage rolls, pies, and sandwiches. and Matt's not eat any of that, so I've got to make him something special. So he made me a little side buffet just for me. Crazy, isn't it?
That's ridiculous, Matt. That's amazing.
Yeah, so people are lovely. And do you know people moan about the Brotherhood of Magicians? How
Yeah.
it's not really a brotherhood and people are backstabbing. It's a lot nicer than the fitness world.
Really?
Yeah, you go online with the fitness world and they are ripping shreds out of each other.
Really?
You can't, you know, in magic, you can't do a double lift, right? If you eat the wrong amount of broccoli, they will tear you down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad. It's the same with all of them, though. They're all the same. You go on a photography and video forum and everyone's tearing shreds off each other. So I don't think it's just magic. You know, I know the cafe can be a bit toxic at times, but I think every forum in every hobby. I've never been on a Buddhism forum.
I reckon they'd be quite peaceful.
You would hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I bet there's someone doing that mantra wrong. You're not humming in the right key there, mate.
Your robes are too short or something.
Exactly.
Like
Look at that. Look at how much ankle he's showing. Middle-aged spread. More like middle-aged nearly dead. How the fuck did this happen? Look at the tits. More than the missus. Arse hanging out. I'm out of breath all the time. I can't tie my shoes. I can't put my socks on without holding on to something. I can't get down. I struggle wiping my arse. How did it happen? It's easy how it happens. The worst bit about it is, you know it's killing you, but you love it and you hate it. Now's the time to do something about it. I've got a little girl. Daddy, chase me, hide and seek, play this, play that. I can't fit in the fucking cupboard. I can't run across the garden. I can barely pick you up. I'm shagged. I need to be there for her. And so do you. So let's get rid of this shit. Each week we'll be taking a different voyage of discovery. We'll be finding out one of the best foods and the best exercises to help men in our shape get back to where we want to be. We'll be answering the important questions. Can I have a beer? How many? How often? Do we have to give up the foods we love? We're going to try and change our eating habits so we eat proper, healthy food which we enjoy. It may seem daunting, it may seem like it's too big of a challenge, but together we can do it. If you're a middle-aged dad who needs to lose some weight, please subscribe to this channel. If your dad is a big fat blubber, get him subscribed to this channel. All you fat dads out there, let's get in this and let's get in shape. I'm Fat Matt and I'm a middle-aged dad.
So here's a question for you. Before we wrap this whole interview up, and this interview has been amazing, I want to ask you a question. It's a question I ask everybody, but I want to ask you, what's next, Matt? What's next? Because you've had an incredible career. If you decided to never perform again, your legacy is set with the stuff that you've released and the creations that you've done and the awards that you've won and everything that you've achieved. Everybody knows your act so well. You've had an amazing career, but I know you're not going to stop now. Obviously, you've talked about other tricks that you're bringing out and other products that you're releasing, and you're still working on marvelous effects. But what else are you doing? Let me ask you a question. Fat Matt takes over YouTube, million subscribers. You're making an absolute fortune as a YouTuber. And then the world gets back to normal and you can open Chamber of Secrets again. Would you, if one of these other businesses that you talked about suddenly just blew up and you had more money than you could ever think of, would you still do Chamber of Secrets? Because you've told me you don't love the actual performing side of things anymore.
I always said if I won the lottery, I would build a fabulous little parlour theatre, but I'd only open once a week. So I'd still do it. I just wouldn't do it every night like I do. So yeah, the chamber would still go, just not as often. I know. I love Rodney's business model at the House of Illusion. If Rodney doesn't want to go in, he doesn't have to go in because he's got a team of other magicians who are there. And I think one of my difficulties with the chamber is my ego and thinking that it wouldn't be as good if I wasn't there, when it probably would. You know,
With the
this is
right people.
a point that I don't know if I'll offend magicians, but magic is really easy. The base level of magic, to be a magician, is really easy to do. All you have to do in the rules is fool someone to be a magician. And there is tricks around that are so simple to do, that are so fooling, that that base level of being a magician is really, really easy to achieve. Very, very easy. And I think the finesse, the more you get into it and the harder you work to be original and to be as good as you can be, is only appreciated by those who are at that level or aspire to be at that level. Someone who knows nothing about it will be just as fooled with an invisible deck as they will with 30 years sleight of hand practice.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
Which is a shame, and also quite rewarding. It's so accessible for people, you know, because you can be an absolute novice and get that buzz, get that instant feeling of I'm a magician.
Yeah.
And the more you get into it, the more you lose that.
Yeah.
When I was first started out in magic, being fooled by another magician was the best feeling in the world. And the better you get at it, the less often you feel that, because you don't get fooled anymore. Now you're looking more at performance and are you entertained? My main criteria when I watch a magician is, am I comfortable? Does he make me feel comfortable? Can I sit back and relax and say, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this guy? Not the magic. I don't care about the magic, really. Just let me be engaged in this person. Let me see who you are. And if you're comfortable, if you know your stuff, then I can relax. And it doesn't matter whether it's manipulation, mind reading, whatever it is, comedy. If you know your stuff, I can sit back and relax and enjoy it and appreciate it. But if you're fumbling or muttering or nervous or just corny or your rhythm's off, then it's going to put me on edge and I'm just not going to feel it at all. And unfortunately, a large majority of magicians are at that level.
Yeah.
There are very few that I can watch and feel comfortable watching. So I don't watch much.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to a gala show in 10 years at Blackpool.
Haven't you?
No, I'm too tired, to be honest. Working that stand kills me.
It is difficult.
Because I'm on. When I'm on that stand, I'm doing an 8-hour show.
Yeah, you are. And I've seen that. I've seen that at Blackpool. You're always, you know, you see people sitting down and just letting people browse and not saying a word. You're just dragging people over and saying hello to them, and yeah, the whole way.
It's a performance. The whole time is a performance. And I really want to, if I'm doing the tricks, I don't want to just den the trick. See, I don't want to slate magicians, really. I don't know if I got into magician slating mode there.
No, that's what I do on this channel quite regularly.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Yeah, but no one likes you.
True.
You see, you were so brave, you and Dave, doing that show back when it started, because you must have made so many enemies. You know, it's such a small world, such a small little niche that we have, that everybody you slate, you're going to meet at some point.
I had death threats. I remember when I was going over to Magic Live for the first time, I had 2 people say that if I came over, they'd grab me from the hotel and bury me in the desert.
I mean, I haven't got the time or the energy to make enemies like that, but you guys were just balls out and ripping. What a show.
It was, it was. I mean, I interviewed Dave on the channel a little while ago, and reminisced about it, and there's still been nothing like it. There's never been.
People are too scared.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what I'm trying to do now on this channel. I'm in a similar situation to you in that I've got a business separate to magic. So I'm not afraid to say what I think on the channel, because no magician can affect my career or can affect my business. I don't care if I trash someone's product because it's a bad product. I'm not really that fussed about the repercussions.
There's a lot of bad products around as well, isn't there?
There's some terrible ones, which is why when I find a really good one, I absolutely rave about it, because the amount of crap that I watch, I watch everything that comes out. I spend hours looking at magic. Some of the stuff I look at, I never review, because I just don't want to put a show out that's bad trick after bad trick after bad trick. I need to find the good ones, but I see everything. I
think it's going to be changing soon. I think it has to change soon. I think this COVID has really kicked the market. I know that the numbers that the wholesalers are doing, they're not ordering anywhere near the amount that they used to. And there's a lot more control. Maybe there's more control. I think the numbers that they're ordering mean that you can only put out a product now if you're confident that it's going to be reordered, that you're going to sell out and you'll make your money on the reorder. These next products that I've got coming out, I'll be breaking even on them, on the production. I won't make any money bringing them to market. I'll only make money if they sell out and get reordered. Because you've got to have a minimum order when you make them. You've got to have 1,000 units made, and whereas before the wholesaler would take all 1,000 off you, now they're only taking 400 off you.
Yeah.
So if it bombs, you've done nothing, and I think that might stop people bringing shit out.
We can hope. I really do hope so. I really, really do.
And it's down to the customer as well. A lot of they don't understand how the magic business works. I remember when I first brought out the plastic RSVP box, the original Lippin Cut RSVP, and people moaned that you didn't get a padlock with it. And I gave you a link. I said, go and buy this padlock. It's $1. And everyone moaned that, why haven't you got that padlock included? Well, I'd have to buy that at $1 and then ship it to the manufacturer, who then has to package it and then ship it to the wholesaler. So now that $1 padlock, by the time it gets to the wholesaler, is now a $3 padlock, and it's not got any better. Now the wholesaler sells it to the shop, and then the shop sell it to you. So it's now a $5 padlock. The price has had to go up by $5 for a $1 padlock.
Yeah.
I'd rather save you the $4.
But
I think
you understand that because you've been involved in the production side of magic. Unless you've been quite heavily involved in the production side of magic, people don't even think that way.
No, exactly. I think $1 padlock. Well, it's only $1, but it cost you $5.
Magicians still think that you can become rich from releasing magic.
It ain't happening.
No. I remember when...
I don't think it's... I mean, the magic market is changing a little bit. Joe Miranda is changing things a little bit. He's bringing out quality stuff. Pro Mystic, Labco, they're really making sure that their products are good, but they're charging a good price for it. And they're not wholesaling. They're only selling direct. That might be where magic heads in the future.
I think you're right. But one last question before we wrap all this up. You've mentioned several times about the importance of having a mentor. I know if I don't ask this question, I'm going to get kicked in the comments. So I'm going to ask it right now. I also caught you saying I might take on somebody to mentor. I don't know. So if there's somebody who's watching this that takes your advice to heart, they want to be the next big thing, they want to win FISM, and they want to be the best magician, and they're prepared to put the time and effort and work in, and they want a mentor and they want Matt Wright, what do they have to do to get you?
I shouldn't have said it. Well, I am mentoring someone at the minute.
Are you?
Yeah, not right now, but for the last couple of years, the same as I did with Tom. And I've had a few other guys over the years, but Dean is probably my main protege at the minute. You know, Dean Lahan, the fingerless magician.
Oh yeah, I
Dean's been
remember.
over with me for 2 years.
Oh, brilliant.
We've worked a lot together, me and Dean. For me to mentor you, you have to have something that I'm looking for, something that I think I can work with. You have to have the right attitude, and you have to come and work for free.
Because that's what you did.
You have to come over and do the summer and not get paid. Your payment is my time. You know, it's worth a lot.
Yeah, I mean, how badly do you want it at the end of the day? You know,
Exactly.
I mean, going over and working a summer season with Matt Wright at the Chamber of Secrets, you know, FISM award winner, blah blah blah. Yeah, yeah, and your track record speaks for itself. Like I say, Tom Crosby openly just gushed up. I asked him the question directly to his face: how did you become who you are? And he said to camera, he just said, Matt Wright. Boom.
Well, what you learned from me, Tom got that stuff from me, but he also got the lights and sound. He got the marketing. It's the whole package, because you become ingrained in our business because it's such a small business and such a family business, and you're with us so much that you become part of that. You find out how to run a theatre, how to run a light and sound system, because we need you to do it. You find out how to run a bar. You find out how to sweep and mop up. You know, we need you to do all of that. And it's an apprenticeship, really, more than a mentoring. It's an apprenticeship in performance and magic and life. Because I'll growl at you as well.
So people can reach out to you down below?
No.
Yes, they
Not
can.
this year.
Not this year. But I also know that.
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, people are always reaching out. I'm always doing stuff. If people have tricks they want to release, that I have emails every day about that kind of thing, and I only pick what I think's great. I have students who want to come. Some people come and pay to come and do a week-long course with me. I've had a few people do that, where we run through your act, and then we might get you on stage and perform your act in front of people in front of the show, or we'll do photo shoots, do a whole week package. So if someone wants to pay to come over, then that's a possibility in the winter time as well. I'm open to all sorts of ideas. I like to keep busy and keep creative. If I've got the time, then, and you're the right guy, then we'll do it.
You like the A-team. If you can find me, you can get me. That's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. I don't advertise. I've never advertised.
Ever?
I've never advertised, really. No. I've got a website at the minute, but we don't really. I never had a personal website. I never had a magician's website. Didn't really have business cards. No, I'm not really a good businessman, I don't think.
Says the guy who's just set up 4 businesses in the last year and has
I think
worked at the top of
I think the only thing that I do in business is make sure that the product's good and let everything else speak for itself, really. I'm very big on things being a slow burner, taking a natural course, letting it gather momentum naturally. The YouTube channel now, I'm not in any rush for the subscriber count to rise, because if it's gonna, if it's the right product, it's gonna get in front of people, and people are gonna like it, and they'll subscribe and watch. And if it doesn't, then it's not the right thing to be doing.
Yeah.
So I've been like that with everything. The Chamber of Secrets took off by itself. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. TripAdvisor was brilliant. The reps, if you like it, you tell people about it, don't you?
You do. Wow, that's amazing. So you're keeping yourself busy.
Yeah, well, I've got a 4-month-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter as well. They're keeping me the busiest things of all.
Matt, this interview has been absolutely incredible.
You're just saying it. You say that to
No,
all of them. I've said it.
genuinely, I'm not. I had high hopes for this interview. I had very high hopes, and it has genuinely surpassed expectations. It's been brilliant, and honestly, anybody who's in magic, I hope to God that they've watched this video and they watch it back again and again, because you have given some incredible advice that
Have
if
I?
people listen to it. Yeah.
And I forgot what we were talking about, to be honest. I'm getting old now.
Yeah, it was about magic and losing weight and a whole bunch of other shit along the way. It was
nonsense.
It was
So
all
shit. We haven't talked about any of the good stuff yet. I'll come on again.
Well, I definitely would have you on again, but I'm gonna finish it now by asking you one question. In all of your career, I know that you're gonna have a whole bunch of really funny stories, stuff that's happened. I want to finish this interview by you sharing one of those. Doesn't matter which one, but I know between working at the House of Illusion, the Chamber of Secrets, Pure Magic Bar, the characters you've worked with, there's a story there that you can share with us that's not going to get you arrested.
Well, that's why I'm thinking. Not get me arrested, or not get any of my mates in trouble, or divorced, or we used to play so many pranks at the House of Illusion. The House of Illusion was brilliant, and I miss it in some ways of the team and camaraderie, because we don't get that at the Chamber. It's just us. So working together in a team, you're always having a laugh with people. Matt Edwards was just the best to be around. Like Poker Face, one day I'd be sat there waiting for the acoustic version, and he put on a disco version. You know, the full-on Lady Gaga Poker Face, and there's 150 people there, and I'm not expecting it, so I've got to do that. Matt does his salt pour, where he pours in tequila, and it's just water. So one day I set it up and I've switched it for tequila, because it takes a big old mouthful like that. So he's got real tequila in there. And he went like that, and he could smell it straight away. And he's just looking over. He's like, you bastard. But he's got to do it. It's his act. So he's on like that. I remember once Daniel John, a brilliant magician, very, very unknown, but a fabulous performer. He was doing, he had a mind buster on his pad. So the curtains had opened, he'd be in front of the curtain, and then the curtains opened, and we had his mind buster open, and it just said gimmick pad written on it. So he had that freaked him out of it. I remember Luke Cook. Now, I don't want this to sound homophobic in any way, because Luke wasn't homophobic. His best friend was a lad called Jamie John, who was a gay dwarf drag queen. But the thought of men having sex, when Jamie would talk about it, would make Luke gag. And Luke was the illusionist. So one time we had the sewing in half illusion, and Luke would do all his stuff with the laser around the front, and then he'd walk around the back of the bed to split it open. And no one ever saw the back, because so he'd walk around the back and split it open. So on the back, we bought a pack of gay porn playing cards, and just streamed the whole back of the sewing in half illusion. So he went round and he walked around the back, and all he could see were cocks and bums everywhere as he did his thing. And he walked through like that. He's like, it was so funny. So funny. But I mean, there'd be stuff like that every single day. What a great place. And I would recommend anyone to go and work there. The pay's rubbish, the hours are terrible, the conditions are crap, but you will love every single second of it.
And every single person I've spoken to from the House of Illusion have said exactly the same thing. And I'm actually interviewing Rodney next week.
There you go. Good stuff.
So
he won't say that. He'll say the conditions are brilliant. The pay's great.
Well, I'll say to him, I was interviewing Matt. And he said this, and this. See what he says about that.
If you tell him that you've been interviewing me, just watch his face drop. He'll be worried. He'll have a little panic, like, what's he said? We're all good. I've been all right, I think, haven't I?
You've been very nice to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. I should have had a Jack Daniels before I come on. I'd have been ripping everyone to shreds.
But we'll save that for the second interview. How's that? We'll get you.
Next one we come on, I'll get pissed. We'll talk about Max Maven in Hollywood and Britain's Got Talent. How's about that?
I'm loving that. I was going to talk about Britain's Got Talent. We will leave that for the next interview because
all right, mate.
I want to definitely hear about that. But Matt, it has been an absolute pleasure. Don't forget, everybody, down below, make sure you visit Matt's store. When the Chamber of Secret opens up again, make sure that you go and see it because Matt is absolutely amazing. You are fantastic. You are unbelievable. This has been an
bless you, man. You're my hero. Look at your tattoos. You are cool as fuck, aren't you now?
I don't know if I'm cool as fuck.
I remember your promo picture in your tuxedo, and you didn't look like that.
Well, things change over time, don't it?
Yeah, you've become a cool guy.
I don't think I've worn a suit or a tuxedo for about 5 years.
Good man. Me neither.
But I tell you what, leave a comment down below for Matt. He will read it. Make sure you follow Fat Matt on YouTube as well. And if you want to see the follow-up to this, where he talks about Britain's Got Talent and we're getting pissed, let us know in the comments down below. But, mate, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Cheers, man. Thank you very much. See you later, guys.
Take care. Bye, everybody.